Hello, everyone. This is Pras. You know me as Pras_FPL on Twitter. And I'm here very excited to be joined on Chasing Green Arrows. Don't forget to subscribe to these guys. They're doing a great job and, lovely to be on. So ZEESHAN'S All-Star 11, I see the premium back four, so nothing to change there. Ramsdale in goal. Jimenez is somebody who I think is now, his time is coming to an end. Couple of blanks, so I think he's somebody who can go. Mbeumo can go as well. Yeah, he's done his job, not very well, but he's had his fixtures, so he's somebody who can leave the team as well. And then the other one I can see is Rafinha. I think one other game for Rafinha, and then the fixtures really toughen up. So in terms of who I would think can replace these guys, so in midfield, I like a couple of guys. So there is Maddison, who's really come back into life. The new formation where him and Barnes are basically flanking Vardy. He's doing well, scored a couple of goals recently. Or Jared Bowen. Bowen has had great attacking stats. For me, he's the standout pick in the 6.5 million bracket. So either of those guys are actually good options for a Rafinha replacement. Up top, I think you need to be thinking about somebody from City. So whether that is Mbeumo or Jimenez, they need to convert into a Bernardo Silva, for example, if you can fund it. Or even Foden if you can go up there, which will basically mean you'll downgrade Jimenez to a King or Dennis. So that would be my suggestion. So this is Flapjack, who is a friend of mine on Twitter, and we've got a very similar team. So it's actually almost looking at my team in the mirror. Same back four, so love that. TAA, James, Alonso, and Cancelo. I think James should be back soon, so that's all good to go. Salah, Jota here to stay. I think for Flapjack, in a couple of weeks, Son is somebody who can go. I mean, the Tottenham fixtures, we've seen the best of them, even though one was postponed. So he could be somebody who leaves. Rafinha, again, as I mentioned, has one other good fixture, but he should be leaving the team. And Gundogan. So I think I see three. Which is basically a little bit of a restructuring in his midfield. And as I mentioned, I like Foden, I like Bernardo Silva as options from City because they have amazing fixtures coming up. I like Maddison, I like Bowen. So these are guys who he can prop up the team on the midfield. In attack, I like Antonio, even though he's not delivered in the past. I think, with the fixtures easing up after Chelsea, I think he should stay. Livramento is really a luxury move. If he can really go to maybe a Mitchell from Palace, that could be an option. But otherwise, I think it's a great team. So this is Luke. Love the team. I mean, he was one of the first guys who went for this premium back four with James. I mean, it was Chilwell, now Alonso, Cancelo, and TAA. How would I pimp this team? I would say, he's held on to Foden, Jota, Salah. I think Rafinha is the guy who could do with an upgrade. Whether that is to a Bowen for the fixtures, I wouldn't do it this week because then he'd have Bowen and Antonio playing Chelsea. But I think Bowen could be somebody who comes in the week after. If he has two free transfers, I would also pimp up Guaita. I mean, he's done decently. The Palace defense has done well. But is he really the guy who you'd back to be the top scorer? It's a little bit of a luxury move, not really pimping it up. But I would say, he could move to a Ramsdale. He could move, even to a Sanchez if he felt that's a route he wanted to go to, or even De Gea, depending on funds. Up front, I think he's got the two guys who I would want. Kane can go after next week. I think that will free up funds for him to spread the money around if he wanted to, because we're not really spending money on premiums this year with Salah delivering goals every week. So I think the Kane money can be spread around, maybe with a Jesus punt, because City have great fixtures, and I know Luke loves City. So maybe Jesus could be somebody. Use that money, upgraded Davis to somebody like a Dennis or a King, and that could pimp up his front line as well. So Wenger's Assemble has got a big at the back, triple Chelsea defense. Very interesting. I think, the way I would pimp this team is Gundogan. I mean, Gundogan missed out last week or a couple of days ago, and you definitely need a City attacker against Watford. City have a great record against Watford. So I would pimp up Gundogan to somebody from the City team itself, whether you can get to Bernardo Silva or even Foden. That's something that you should look to do. I think up front, Broha is a little bit of a worry to me. I mean, he's not started the last game. Armstrong and Adams have done well up top. Broha will get his minutes, but you'll never be able to rely on him to get the starts. So I think downgrading him to somebody completely like a fodder would actually save you a little bit of money. And you could then upgrade Gundogan to one of the midfielders I mentioned. I love the Bowen pick. I think he can sit on your bench next week. And after that, he really comes up as somebody who has great fixtures, can be a complement to other people who have Antonio. King is great. I love the back line. At some point, you may feel that it's inflexible if you wanted to move up to a premium, but I think for now, this is great. Lord of the Ings, I think this team is in very good shape for this week. I really like it. So, I would pimp it up with first saving a free transfer. So I would save, because this team looks amazing for this week. I mean, you've got Wilson playing Burnley, you've got Tony playing Leeds, so your attack looks good. Your backline looks great as well. Lamptey was rested midweek. What I would do here is save a free transfer and the week after really attack it. And the way I would do it is essentially you would downgrade Son to whoever you like, maybe a third City midfielder, like a Bernardo Silva, and then use that money to, to shore up your fourth defender if you wanted. If you didn't want Lamptey for the longer term, you could really upgrade that to a Spurs defender, for example, or you could go even for the more template backline of going for Alonso. But I think there's a lot you can do with this team once the Sun money gets freed up. And the other way you could go is just get a Manchester United midfielder. There's talks of Sancho coming back to life under the new system. So, yeah, I think great shape. And my suggestion would be to save this week and attack the week after. Right, Rolls-Royce 12. Just reading what he did. So, Auba, Brownhill to Pukki and Jota. Yeah, I see what you've done here. Now, you've got a pretty strong bench. Now, look, I think you've got the money to upgrade Trossard. If you can downgrade that bench, whether that is through your third striker, Armstrong, I've got Armstrong as well. He's not really doing the business for me. So if you downgrade Armstrong and you upgrade Trossard back to a Foden, who's now back, or Bernardo Silva, I think that'll really pimp up this team and give you that City cover against an easy Watford fixture. I think your backline is great, needs no work. Salah, Jota, Smith Rowe is there for the longer term. Love that. Kane is there. So really, Armstrong and Trossard are the two positions where I think you can pimp this team up. And like I said, downgrade Armstrong, upgrade Trossard. Lord of the Light, how can I pimp up your team? So your backline looks great. Alonso, James, Cancelo, TAA. It's becoming very template, very popular, but for a reason. It's doing well. So I think Mbeumo and Rafinha are the two places that need pimping up. And you could go two ways here. You could go sideways. So you could say Rafinha to another 6.5, like a Bowen or even a Maddison. And you go Mbeumo to another similar-ish price player like an ESR, maybe Gallagher if you have a little bit more money. Or I would say you could really stretch out your bench and say, look, I don't need money on the bench. Livramento is enough and Brownhill is enough cover. So you could go down to another 4.5 midfielder, say a Gilmore, and that would really pimp up that position of Rafinha to a Foden, which I think gives you that City cover. And then you have essentially every player who is highly owned and is likely to deliver over the next few weeks. So you've got Antonio, Jota, Foden, Tony, Kane. I love that team. So I think Rafinha and Mbeumo, you can decide where to go with that. You can be risk averse and just do like for like, or you can really stretch out and use money in the 11 for a Rafinha upgrade to a City mid. Gladiator 11, how would I pimp your team? I think the backline needs no working. It's a great backline template. I think the two areas where I see some movement, and that's great that you've held on to Vardy this long, but I think it may be time, probably after the next game, to say bye to Vardy. You've got Rafinha here as well. Doing something in those two positions after the next fixture. Very interesting ways you can go here. You could go for a City mid, upgrade Rafinha to a City mid, and downgrade Vardy to pretty much anyone you want. You could go into one of the Watford boys like King and Dennis. You could even look at potentially people who are coming back from injury, somebody like a Bamford, in the 8 million bracket, not very popular right now, but it's an interesting one for me for sure. If you wanted to really pimp this team up and go 3 positions, I would say Vardy, Rafinha, and Mbeumo. I think these are the 3 guys that are your weak spots. Use the Vardy money, upgrade Rafinha to a Foden, upgrade Mbeumo to somebody in the 6-ish bracket. If you like Gallagher, I personally like Bowen a lot. So if you can do those 2 and then downgrade Vardy all the way down to a King or a Dennis, I think that would be a really solid team. Boom Shakalaka, your team looks good. I think the one missing element in your backline is Alonso. Although I think between Alonso and Rudiger, there's not much in it, as long as, Rudiger continues to play through Christmas, and Alonso invariably will miss out. But you will unfortunately miss out on a 15-point haul that Alonso will have invariably in the next few weeks. But I think Rudiger is fine. So nothing to pimp up on your back line. I think your front line does need some work. Jimenez's time is up. He's had his good fixtures. I think you should be looking to downgrade him at some point. Depends where you want to go here. I think you could potentially look at Jimenez and Son after next week. And that money gives you pretty much anything that you want to play with. You could go Ronaldo, for example, next week if you thought he's really going to come up under the new manager. So you could go Son and Jimenez to Ronaldo and Jared Bowen if you wanted to double up on West Ham's attack for their good fixtures. Or you could basically go Jimenez to somebody slightly less than that, and you can go Son to a City mid like Foden. I think you could potentially even do Foden and Jesus. So you could basically triple up on City if you really wanted to. You could go Ronaldo. Lots of options. Jimenez and Son are the two areas where I think you should work on to prepare for the next fixtures. So NA7, how would I pimp up this team? Your backline looks fine. I think you could have upgraded Lamptey to Alonso, but I think Lamptey's a great shout as well. He's looking very attacking. So nothing in your defense, but it remains to be seen if you can use that upgrade or that money in your midfield and attack. And I see you've got Foden, which is great, a City attacker. You've got Rafinha. So Rafinha's fixtures sort of stiffen up after the next game. So for me, that's a position you should address. If you can take him up to, or actually downgrade him to a Bowen, that would really help. If you can go Maddison, that's an interesting shout. Maddison looks great in the new setup. So Rafinha would be the one position. Your attack looks very good. Tony, look, I mean, he's got Leeds next and then Watford after, but really he's not really threatening the amount that we'd expect him to. So if you wanted to move Tony on to somebody else, who that somebody is remains to be seen, whether it's, St. Maximan, if you believe the Newcastle attack, although Wilson, I think, is the go-to guy. You've got Dennis from Watford, who's been performing really well. So I think it's a question mark. This team looks in a very good space. The couple of areas that I would pimp up is Rafinha to one of the mids I mentioned, and Tony, perhaps a downgrade. Or if you can find the money, Watkins is an interesting one from Villa. He's looked attacking as well. So, those are the 2 areas I would pimp this team up on. This was Pimp My Team for Game Week 15. This has been Pras. Best of luck to everyone.